Hi and welcome to today's class. It is the 23rd of April and this is class number 80. So in today's class we're going to continue on with algebra long division, which we started yesterday. We're going to do a few more examples and then you're going to spend the rest of the class working through those examples. These will be due in before Monday's class. So I'm continuing on with our examples from yesterday. So today I'm going to look at example 4. Now, what we're being asked today is to divide x cubed plus 3x squared plus 5x plus 3, and we're dividing that by x plus 1. What we have here on the left is actually a cubic. It's a cubic because we have an x to the power of 3. So yesterday we were focusing in on quadratics and then dividing them by a little expression. When we did that, I explained yesterday that there was an alternative method using factors that we could also get the answer. Now, for these cubics, unfortunately, there is no nice, easy way to factorize them. So our only option is to do long division. Because there is an extra term, so we were dealing with quadratic trinomials, so 3 pieces. These cubics have 4 pieces. So because there's that extra piece, the long division will have one extra step. The method stays the same. So let's set this up. So we're going to have x plus 1, and we're going to divide that into x cubed plus 3x squared plus 5x plus 3. So I'm going to do my little rough work here on the right, and I have my steps. So the first step is divide. Remember, we're dividing the first term by the first term. So our first term of that cubic divided by the first term here of that little expression. So we get x cubed divided by x. X cubed is x times x times x, all divided by an x, and that leaves us with xx, which is actually x squared. So I put my answer up here. So that's my divide. Then I multiply. Remember, when we multiply, we're going to multiply both terms by the x squared. So we do x squared by x and x squared by plus 1. So what we get is x cubed plus, you can say 1x squared or just x squared, it doesn't matter. That's our multiply. Then we have subtract. Remember, when we subtract in algebra, what it effectively looks like is we change the signs. So that becomes minus, and this becomes minus. The x cubed, so we have x cubed minus x cubed, they cancel. And we have 3x squared minus 1x squared, so that's 2x squared. So that's our subtract. Then we bring it down, so we bring down the next piece, just the next piece, and we start again. Now usually this will be our last step, but it won't be in this case because remember we have that extra term. So again, we're going to divide the first term by the first term. So we have 2x squared divided by x. That is 2xx divided by x, and that gives us 2x. Just says 2x, so that means it must be a plus 2x. So now that I've done my divide, I forgot to take off my bring it on down. So I've my divide done again. Now we're in multiply. So I'm multiplying plus 2x by x and plus 2x by plus 1. So we get, I'm just going to get rid of these markings. We get 2x by x, that's 2x squared, and 2x by 1, that's 2x. So that's divide, multiply. So now we are going to subtract. Remember, subtract as I change the signs. So we get a minus and a minus. 2x squared minus 2x squared is 0, or cancel it, we don't write that 0. 5x minus 2x is 3x, so that's my subtract. And now I bring it on down, so I'm bringing down that last piece, that plus 3, and I'm going to start again. So now I do my divide. My divide is the first term by the first term. Oh, I lost my little dividing line here. So my first term is 3x divided by x, so that gives me 3. It's just 3, which means it's a plus 3. So then we multiply and we get 3x plus 3. We subtract, so it's minus 3x and minus 3, and we're left with no remainder. So the answer, when we divide that cubic by x plus 1, our answer is x squared plus 2x plus 3. And that's where we stop. As you get into leaving cert, you'll have to do a little bit more, but that is it. That's where we stop. So you see that we have like the extra cycle there. We do not just the first 2 steps that we had yesterday, we do it a third time, but the method is exactly the same. So example 5, now that we've seen that we have an extra step, I'm now looking at, well, what happens if the cubic does not have 4 terms? And this would be the same process we'd use if the cubic didn't have 3 terms. So we are being asked to divide x cubed minus 19x minus 30 by x minus 5. So what you might want to do is go straight into it. And actually, I'm going to change color because I'm going to tell you now that everything I do in this color is going to be wrong. So you might just want to watch this and not take it down, and we'll see what goes wrong. So let's try it like we usually try it. 19x minus 30. Can you spot why we are short a term? Can you spot why? So we're actually missing an x squared term. That's why. So there's an x cubed, but there's no x squared term. So rough work, divide the first term by the first term. So that's x divided by x. So far so good. That leaves me at xx, which is x squared. Divide. Multiply x squared by x. That's x cubed. X squared by minus 5. Minus 5x squared. Divide, multiply, subtract. Minus x squared and a plus 5x squared. We then have cancelling happening. And this is where we run into the problem. What is 19x plus 5x squared? And you can't do it. You can't add terms that are not the same. So there's no way to add them because one is an x term and one is an x squared term. So what's happened is, without the space there for the x squared term, it's all just gone a bit wrong. So I'm going to show you, now you could keep going like that, but I think it's better to have it set up the same way all the time. So if anyone's looking going, oh, but we could, but I'm going to show you a better and easier way to work these kind of questions if there is a term missing. So we're going to rewrite this. And we're going to put in what I would say is like a placeholder for that x squared term we're missing. So we've x cubed plus 0x squared. So we don't have any x squareds, but I'm going to give it space. Because when we do our long division, we basically want a column for each of the types of terms. And what I mean by that is, there should be a column for x cubes. There should then be a column for x squareds. There should then be a column for x, and then a column for just those numbers or constants. If those columns aren't set up to start with, we end up with terms underneath each other that shouldn't be underneath each other. So even though the initial question doesn't have an x squared, we should still put it in. So I've put in that 0. So this has not changed my sum. It's simply been put in there like a placeholder, like a space to hold. It's like a thing to hold the space for the x squared terms. So now I'm going to go back and do what I always do. I start with divide. I divide the first term by the first term. So this feels familiar. We did it even though I was going the wrong way the last time. That gives me xx, which is x squared. I then multiply. X squared by x is x cubed. X squared by minus 5 is minus 5x squared. I now subtract, so that's a minus, this becomes a plus, and now we don't have the same problems because we now have that x squared column. So when I say column, I mean piece that's working down. So I have a 0x squared plus 5x squared. and that gives me 5x squared. Divide, multiply, subtract. Next step, bring it down. So bring down the next term. That's minus 19x. And we start again. 5x squared divided by x. That's 5x divided by x. That gives us 5x. If it's just 5x, that means it's a plus 5x. We now multiply. 5x by x is 5x squared. 5x by minus 5 is minus 25x. Divide, multiply, subtract. So this becomes minus, this becomes plus. They cancel out, and I have minus 19x plus 25x, so that is 6x. And that is divide, multiply, subtract. Bring it on down, so 6x is now 6x minus 30. And we start again. So I have 6x divided by x, and that gives me 6, which means it's a plus 6. 6 by x is 6x. 6 by minus 5 is minus 30. Divide, multiply, and then subtract. We're left with no remainder. So just be aware if there is a missing term. They should have the powers in order. So there's an x to the power of 3. There should be an x to the power of 2. Because there is no x to the power of 2, so no x squared, we would have to write it as 0x squareds. This is our last example. And again, it is a cubic, but like the last example, it's missing a term. Can you spot what's missing? So hopefully you said the x term. So we have 6x cubed minus 13x squared, and I'm going to put in a plus 0x and a plus 4. And I'm going to divide that by 2x plus 1. So we have 6x cubed minus 13x squared. Don't forget to put in that 0x because we need that space. Even though the term isn't there, we need the space for the x terms. And we set up our little rough work page, our little rough work column over here, and we divide the first term divided by the first term. So that's 6x divided by 2x. The x's cancel. 6 divided by 2 is 3. It's x squared. So we get 3x squared. That's divide. Multiply. 3x squared by 2x, that should be 6x cubed. They should always match. If they don't, something has gone wrong. Then we have 3x squared by plus 1, so that's plus 3x squared. Divide, multiply, now we're doing subtract. This becomes a minus, and this becomes a minus. 6x cubed minus 6x cubed is 0 or cancels. We then have minus 13x minus 3x, so that's minus 16x squared. We've now divide, multiply, subtract, and then we bring it down, so plus 0x. Now we're going to do our steps all over again. So first step is divide. So we have minus 16x squared divided by 2x. That's minus 16x divided by 2x. We have minus 16 divided by 2. Watch your signs. That's minus 8. And then there's an x left. So we have minus 8x. Now we multiply. Minus 8x by 2x is minus 16x squared. Minus 8x by plus 1 is minus 8x. Divide, multiply, now we subtract. This becomes plus and this becomes plus. Minus 16x squared plus 16x squared, that goes to 0. And 0x plus 8x is simply 8x. And then we bring down our plus 4 and we start again. Divide. 8x divided by 2x. 8 divided by 2 is 4. That means it's a plus 4. 4 by 2x is 8x plus 4. Divide, multiply, subtract. And that leaves us with no remainder. So these questions, just a little bit longer. For Monday, I want you to try these questions. There are 8 in total. They're all working with cubics. 17 and 18, I'm still asking long division because remember there is no other way that we can do this. Long division is our only method when we have a cubic. If it was a quadratic, you do have the option to work with factors, but actually factorizing cubics, as you see in Leaving Cert, actually involves long division. Be careful with question 22. That has only got 3 terms despite being a cubic. So this work is due before class on Monday, and as always, if you have any questions, please let me know.